Let's get right into highlights. So which of these did you find more interesting or compelling?
I found the Salt Lake City one more interesting and compelling, and some of it was they seemed to be doing more activities. I liked seeing the shots as well of the scenery, which kept me engrossed in the episode. But I really liked the dynamic between the one family and her son, Jax. I really liked seeing them interact, at least the dad. The dad was like just charmed me. I love the dad in this, her husband, and so I liked Salt Lake City better.
Oh yeah, that there was that one like standout scene where they're going through like his old like memory box from his past mission, which was really interesting, and that's one of the things that has consistently come up on our episodes is just how much texture the weird relationship that everyone has with the church in Salt Lake City is, and just seeing this this dynamic play out within the Barlow family is really interesting.
Yeah, I agree. I was surprised to see that a show like this had made it to Salt Lake City. And so that's part of why I was curious. I wanted to see how they were going to navigate, like I said, at least my preconceived notions of this over the top drama, decadent stuff within a community that's not known for that. So I was pleasantly surprised.
Yeah, I think that like Lisa Barlow is someone that has like she's an icon, a housewife icon, but I think that she is a very like memed housewife, and this season I feel like she's giving a lot more depth. Like there's a lot more of that like personal relationship with her son that is being explored, and we're seeing just like what the because she considers herself Mormon, and so she like has a relationship with the church that is probably stronger than anyone else on the cast, because the other people who are Mormon are like ex-Mormon, but she has like her own kind of take on Mormonism, which is something that you really like get the sense that is a anomaly. Like everyone else, all the former Mormons that are on this show are very they're very concerned about the rules of like what it means to be a Mormon or what it means to not be a Mormon, whereas Lisa kind of picks and chooses but still is like going to church and is a practicing Mormon. It's I think it's a really textured view that we get of Lisa Barlow as a person and a character.
And I was reading that she converted to Mormonism in her youth. And so that was interesting for me to see, because initially, at least, you know, during that really poignant scene that they were having where he was telling him, hey, this is what happened when I went away on my mission, I was immediately like, why is she being so negative? She was like, you might meet people that you don't like, that you don't get along with. And his dad's giving him, you know, all of this like hopeful stuff. And so I was like, okay, she's kind of a half glass empty person, but I recognize it as maybe a parental defense mechanism, right? She wants to like prepare her son for whatever he might encounter.
Yeah, and it seems like it is like this effort to like connect and be realistic and be like, hey, most other like moms within the faith are going to be like gung-ho, everything is like perfect, I'm glad that you're doing this mission. She's trying to like give this like dose of realism and form this like connection with Jack, but it's like it's not working. Like it's actually seems like it's pushing him further away and like disconnecting, and it's like it's a real like kind of like flip on the kind of the values that you would expect between a like in a parental relationship in this like cultural setting. Like it reminds me of was it Family Ties, is the Michael J. Fox one? Yeah, where they kind of like flipped the script, and it was like you know, they had Michael J. Fox's character was like the conservative kid and the parents were the hippies. It reminds me of that, like that kind of dynamic.
I like that. I like that way of looking at it. For me at least, because I don't know any of these women or any of the people in the show, I went and did some research on them. And so I was immediately like, who the heck is this Heather Gay person? Let me go look up Heather Gay, because she's got a big personality for the show. And so I wanted to read a little bit more about her as well.
Yeah. What was your takeaway on her?
I definitely grew to like her a little bit more as the episode went on, and I know that she'd been in some other housewife episodes, and I believe her cousin is also, part of the housewives genre here. And so I didn't dislike her as much as I initially thought when she came on, because my initial reaction was like, "Oh my gosh, this person." But she kind of grew on me.
Totally. What other highlights did you have from this episode?
I mean, for me, I wasn't particularly looking for any highlights. I know you guys mentioned that. And so I was just trying to take it all in. For me, like I said, the main highlight was I was really impressed with how much family time there seemed to be in this episode. And this feels a little bit different than the Beverly Hills or maybe other seasons, where it didn't seem so focused on the housewives. I was really interested in seeing how things played out with their partners. I know some of them were divorced. And so for me, I was looking at more how these dynamics played out. And I wasn't expecting them to seem so normal in a lot of episodes, but in the Salt Lake City one particularly, I liked the sense of normalcy that I think at least the Beverly Hills one maybe didn't have as much of.
Yeah, totally. Sandy, what were your highlights from Salt Lake City?
Well, on the topic of Lisa, definitely agree. It's very interesting to watch, and how hurt she is that Jack did not tell them about this mission trip, because it was so awkward at the party when she said, "Raise your hand. How many of you knew before we did?" Like, ma'am, you gotta let it go if you but she just can't. And that's sort of part of that not working thing. Like she's trying to make sort of light of it, but it's like, it's very clear that it's not a light thing for her. And her son is probably just going to keep rolling his eyes. So anyway, that's why he did it. Otherwise, we learned something new about Angie. Did you know she's Greek? That is, if you haven't watched other episodes, we did know she's Greek, but we learned more about.
I get the feeling.
And the cross-country skiing excursion I found appalling as a cross-country skier, and I think it's doing harm to the cause of recruiting others to that hobby, because they weren't skiing in tracks, which makes a huge difference. They were just going up some little gross hill and down again. It was didn't look fun. Those women are never going to do that again. And I'm sad, because cross-country skiing is wonderful, a great way to exercise, a great way to enjoy winter, and they did not experience that. And it's kind of funny, just because obviously they're always doing these little like activities that are kind of silly and just to get them somewhere. But this one was, I guess as someone who actually finally does one of the activities they do, I was like, oh God, this is just terrible.
It was surprising though, because cross-country skiing is very different from downhill skiing, but I feel like if you live in Utah, you would be comfortable on skis, and some of those skills should translate a little bit.
It is definitely different, but they looked uncomfortable. You need a lesson. And then my other one was the Mary and Whitney lunch, which was just nuts. And full Mary. She turned on a dime there. I don't even understand what happened, but she basically came to get takeout and leave, and I loved it.
Yeah, so. She arrived just to leave.
Thank you. I was confused. I went to go get something to drink. I came back and I was like, okay, this is on. Something happened. And so I rewinded it and I was like, what did I miss? Why is she so pissed right now? What did I miss? Is that like a normal thing for Mary to just flip like that?
So she is a little antisocial, especially this season. That's kind of been like something that she's really leaned into, like not participating in group activities, just more so than usual. But her and Whitney probably have the tensest relationships of all the people that Mary interacts with. There's a history there of Mary just like flat out not liking her. So it's kind of a little bit of a perfect storm to get this lunch. It's more surprising to me that she showed up for the lunch at all versus, just like turning down the invite and waiting to deal with Whitney one-on-one. And I wonder if maybe she got there and was like intimidated by Whitney. Like, I don't know if I can actually take you one-on-one. And because usually there is it's not that Mary relies on a group to back her up, but she does this thing where she like recedes from the group as a defense mechanism.
Okay.
So like if you are wanting to engage with her after she's like kind of receded from the group, you also have to remove yourself from the group, and whatever dynamic you have that could be leveraged in a group environment is no longer available to you. And I think that kind of works for her to kind of maneuver through conflict. And also she just like, she doesn't care what you think if she doesn't, you don't like her. So, yeah.
I think there was a line that someone said, I'm not your child, Mary. And said, thank God you're not. And I was like, this is biting.
Yeah.
Craig, do you think like she often just doesn't come to events, and she often, as you said, kind of leaves or just sits out, which is hilarious, but she just like sits in the van or whatever. How much do you think production is fine with that? And how much do you think they sometimes might say, you got to actually attend some filming? Sure. Like, what is your take on that?
Yeah, I think, that's why she had to leave the show after season 2. I feel like it was because she was just like, all the scenes that we saw for the most part were her in like her huge closet and like in her huge house and not like leaving. And I don't know if you've read House of Leaves. I'm beginning to wonder if maybe it's you get lost inside a house that big type situation. But she just like, I feel like she's doing the bare minimum. I think Friend Of works way better for her than being a full-blown housewife, because she is reluctant to share a lot of like personal information. She's very like cagey around her role within the church that she runs. And obviously there's question surrounding how much she actually knows about what's going on in her personal life, because she didn't realize her son was married for a year. So, I think that like, this is a very good amount of Mary. I think it's working really well for her versus in the, in season 1 and season 2, as a housewife, you're expected to carry a lot more of the show, right? You need to give a lot more. Whereas this, you can just be like kind of an accent note. And luckily, like season 1 and season 2 of Real Housewives of Salt Lake City is really good. A lot of that has to do with just the power of Jen Shaw being this like enigmatic force, this like, short fuse, and just being like having such gravitas. But so the seasons themselves didn't suffer, but it was clear that Mary wasn't giving nearly as much as anyone else on the cast. And so she had to go. And it is really great that she's coming back, because, in retrospect, when you look back on the seasons that she was on, there's all these like super memorable moments of that Mary gave us. And like, she did provide value to the show, but it wasn't enough to carry a full story. Like, it wasn't enough to really give the audience something to bite on. So like, it's just the perfect level of engagement for being a friend of. And I think she's definitely going to be back in a friend of capacity next season. I'll be a little hesitant if it's anything more than that, because I think we're getting the right amount there. And it's like, it's just enough to really stir up some drama when she's there, and people don't know how to deal with her.
And she said something about people needing to prove to her they have souls before she will associate with them. And I was like, okay, sometimes it seems like with these shows, they might want to make multiple people the villain, but I definitely felt like Mary's kind of painted as a villain. And you mentioning the antisocialness, I think, is a big factor. You know, if you were an introvert or you're doing this because you want to be with your quote unquote friends, I can see having to be on all the time for this would not be something that would be your vibe.
Yeah, totally. And especially a lot of these people are obviously very image conscious, and but I think for the most part, if you are going to be a housewife on these shows, you know that at some point you're probably going to end up getting a villain edit and being the villain. And it's just these shows do such a good job of capturing the ebbs and flows of where you exist in all these stories that are both internal and external to you as a person. And you're never going to be the hero 100% of the time for the most part. And I think that most people understand, even as much as they want to curate their image, that they are going to have to be the villain at some point. And I don't think that sits well with Mary, because and this is something that you wouldn't have been able to pick up on from the context of just this one episode, but her and her husband are heads of this some sort of Baptist church that is so she doesn't want to be seen as anything less than godly, I think.
Yes, I get that feeling. So I used to work on a reality TV show, just, on the back end of it. I worked with the Real World series. And so I know a little bit about how this editing works. And they will absolutely be like, you know what? The people seem like they want more of this from you, and they will cut it like that.
Right.
And so that doesn't always work out for people. I do love that Whitney was trying so hard to kiss up to Mary. And I was just inside no, Whitney, don't show any fear to Mary at all. Don't show her fear. That's not how you're going to win her over. So it's just interesting to see how they all do know each other, and they are trying to, at least I think sometimes, come at things, come to the same thing, but from very different viewpoints. And watching that play out in real time is what is the most entertaining thing about this for the viewers, I think.
Yeah, for sure. And also it's really interesting to watch Whitney work this season. When this scene came up, I was wondering, what is Whitney's motivation in getting together with Mary here? Because it does seem like Whitney is trying to shuffle the deck a little bit and create a new kind of alliance, or I don't know. It's hard to tell. At first, when the season started, I was like, okay, Whitney is preparing for something. She's trying to shore up, Lisa and Monica and Angie, and kind of get an alliance. And I thought it was to try to go against Meredith. But now it's I don't really know what she's trying to accomplish. And maybe it is to just see what she can get in terms of dirt, or see what she can, what kind of drama she can create, and use that as a catalyst for some sort of attack on either Heather or Meredith. I'm really confused, but it's really fun to watch.
You mentioned Angie, and every solo scene that Angie was in was so long because she talks so slowly. so slowly. And I was like, okay, what's Angie's deal? What's the backstory on Angie a little bit?
Yeah, so Angie was a friend of last season, and she had some sort of beef with Jen Shaw. I don't even remember what was. Do you remember what Angie K's deal was?
There was something about where she threw Jen a party and they didn't like pay her back. That was one part of it. But I don't know if that was the beginning or the middle. They were friends, and then she threw her a party. There was a miscommunication on if it was going to be like a gifted party or not. I don't know. Does that sound familiar?
Right. Yeah. And then there was like, I think Jen Shaw dumped a drink on her at some point and threw her shoes overboard.
On that trip. Okay. Yeah. Like dumped a drink on her head and said, oh, it's just a joke. Just having fun girls trip. Yeah.
I was really hoping for a drink in the face or on the head in some of these episodes, because that's what I've grown to know about these shows, is that the drama is over the top. Like someone gifted me some pictures, some hand painted pictures for Christmas a couple of years ago, with the person yelling and pointing across the table and being like, no, and with where people were doing the cat meme.
Right.
So I have that in our game room, but I hadn't watched that episode. People were just like, oh, you would love this because this meme is everything that these shows are about.
Yeah, that Kyle Richards and Taylor Armstrong from Beverly Hills are the ones in that meme. And they do like have over the top explosive blowouts, but it's used sparingly or tastefully, I guess. They kind of save those moments for when they can have like a real impact and really like either drive a wedge in a relationship or really shock the viewers. I think that these, and maybe this is just me like over reading the strategy that these people have when they're operating here, but I feel like they, pick and choose their like TV moments very carefully in order to leverage the kind of momentum that they'll get out of the fan base reacting to it, and how they think that it might drive the edit surrounding that moment in their favor, or or against them. There's like definitely housewives that like thrive in that villain role, and like having everyone be daggers out against them. But yeah, I think they do. Like there is strategy for the most part when they pick and choose those moments, unless they're just complete chaos queens.
Some of it seemed like that, definitely. I want to know what happens in the next episode, because Whitney just I loved when Whitney just drove right past Meredith's car in that snowbank and didn't stop at all. I was like, oh, you're going to hear about this. You're going to hear about this.
Yeah, this like car accident of Meredith is very much being played as like nothing serious, and she's so choked up about it. It's very funny. Sandy, did you have any other highlights from Salt Lake City?
No, I think that was it.
Cool. Yeah, I had a few more. So for one, just like the tailgating thing that they set up in the snowmobile after like snowmobiling at the like on the side of the highway or whatever was a very odd setup to me. But I thought that the scene that between Angie and her father, where she's kind of like talking about her relationship with Sean, was very telling. And he like he wasn't there, and they hadn't gone on a date in 2 years, and like all together, any of those like individual things are like whatever, like shit happens, but all of it at once, and her like him coming in and being like sweaty and just like, don't touch me or get near me, I'm gonna go up for a shower, was like, I can see why there is like smoke around this relationship. That's and just like Angie's like pained like do you want some fruit at the end of this? I was like, are you implying that there's fruit here? But yeah, no, I think that like you guys touched on the fact that the parental relationships are really taking like a front seat on this season. I think the standout for me was the scene at the end between Monica and her mom. There was just so much going on in there that was being both like said and unsaid. And I want to know what you guys thought about this. Like, where did it land with you emotionally?
That's a great question.
I was surprised that they were being that revealing, honestly, because like you said, they're very image focused. And so I wasn't expecting it to be, it seemed kind of genuine. And so I was surprised by that. I was surprised they were going to reveal those sort of things while they were having that talk. I thought maybe it would just get pushed off, but it didn't.
Yeah,
what about you, Sandy?
I was going to say, yeah, Monica is a new housewife and she's sort of putting it all out there. That's kind of her thing. And this was a follow-up from the last episode where, I guess as they mentioned, at this Greek Easter, her mom was sort of apologizing for her and trying to shush her while she was fighting with Angie. And she felt really betrayed by her mom. And this stems from this, obviously, their relationship that's very fraught. I'm interested to see it. I think it does feel... I mean, it feels authentic, but messed up. Like there's layers here. Like, what are we seeing? You know, and that's like anything. It's not necessarily because it's on the show. We've also, I don't follow a ton, but the mom has been commenting on social media, I think, and Craig, you might know more, but I think I heard her saying something like that Monica begged her to go on this show and then is like screwing her over on the show. So there's just so many layers here. It really is fascinating. And the mom seems like a very interesting character. What are her motivations for being on this show? She obviously, as you said, not like cares very much about her image, but it's kind of getting away from her, or who knows? I mean, there's so many ways this could kind of go. So it is fascinating.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I assume there's a lot we're not hearing as well, like that we don't know. Like you said, the layers. I am sure there's so much at play before this show ever got started that they are still working out.
Yeah, I just like instinctively trust Monica. I feel like everything that we have seen from her has indicated that like she's either being very like transparent and laying things bare. She's a little like messy, and I don't get the sense that she is like skilled enough to construct a this like false reality and like put that forward. She just doesn't seem like that's something that she's capable of socially. Just like even when it comes to how she interacted with like Lisa Barlow and the Ring earlier in the season, and just like kind of like burning a bridge with Angie, who was one of her closest friends, for like seemingly no real good reason. I don't get a sense that she is playing the type of chess that you would need to be playing in order to construct this elaborate of a manipulation. But I do get the sense that her mom is very skilled in manipulation. She is pulling out so many tricks. We have like heard recounted various stories where she is being extremely selfish and manipulative. And like, she's turning on the waterworks whenever she wants.
It was fake like crying.
It's very fake. That is like when I say authentic, I mean like this woman is authentically manipulative because that was clearly
yes.
And you see that's what she's always dealing with Monica's dealing with.
It was hard to watch at times, especially this, because it's like a symbiotic mess between these two. I know some people are going to find this very, very entertaining, but I find this almost too hard to bear because you can see the toxicity between these two. It's such a sad train wreck, and I hope that they work it out because, like you said, the mom is so manipulative. I was like, oh, don't trust anything out of her mouth.
Yeah.
Like, just no. Mm-mm.
Yeah, that's what I was trying to think
that
of. Oh, sorry. I was going to. That's what I was sort of mulling over too as I watched. I'm like, do I enjoy this, or is it a bit too far down that road?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I did like enjoy it, not as like I'm so like living for the drama type thing,
Mm-hmm.
but I thought that it was just such a compelling scene between two characters that was so nuanced, and it really played into the core piece of reality TV that I love is just seeing characters that are so deep that you can't possibly write them. Like, obviously,
Yes.
there are like reality TV is a constructed environment, and there are like storylines that are constructed and fed by like editors and producers, and but still at the core, these are people that have their own like human motivations that inform the decisions that they're making within that framework. And
Mm-hmm.
you see, you know, decades of history between people in some cases, especially in this case, it drive the conversation, and there's so much like subtext, and it was just such a emotionally rich scene between two characters that were on the journey of just starting to get to know, but they have such a like deep history with each other, which is something that we don't often see on these shows. Usually when we see a very like emotionally heavy scene like this, it'll be between cast members that have a lot of history from being on the show for like maybe decades at a time together. But these are characters that we're just learning about this season, and they've got such rich history together that we're like, it's like being dropped right into the middle of a book and like trying to pick up on what is going on between these characters. And I thought it was just so compelling.
I liked it too because I'm coming at this from a different viewpoint. You know, I don't know the background for these characters and how their arcs are playing out. And my degree is in, human communication. And I love seeing how these people interact with each other because I think this is what draws people into reality shows, right? It gives us a chance to reflect on what we might do in a similar situation. This can be a good exercise in value exploration for some people. And then we get to the basic question of self-interest versus self-sacrifice, which is a theme that runs through a lot of reality shows, as well as, the bad behavior, the betrayal, competition, and things that are really familiar to us. And so we like to see other people in these situations because we're like, would I do that? Would I react like that? And we get into the cycle of wanting to root for, like we said, our favorite show participant, whatever that is. It's usually when we're identifying something really compelling within them that we think is a part of us as well.
Yeah, totally.
Totally, yeah.
Did you guys have any other final thoughts on Salt Lake City?
No, I I don't think so. I think that Lisa is so horrified that he's going to Colombia and she's not sure how to process that because she went from yay going to Colombia to oh you might be held up at gunpoint, and so I just think she's having a hard time really settling into that.
Yeah, she definitely like the delivery on her confessional line about her friend's like son being held up at gunpoint every week in Colombia was like almost like jovial, like she was like saying it in this like excited way, but there was like a hint of fear behind it, and it's really interesting to watch her navigate this situation.
Yeah.